I started recording so that I've done this before where with friends or with people where I've like started and then I'm like, oh yeah, we didn't even start recording. So I just did it now while I like remembered.
Okay, so that this Instagram um, video of the guy filming himself setting, I think it's Kimberly Clark, that warehouse on fire. So anyone that hasn't seen it or what have you, it's the fellow. He's walking around the entire warehouse and setting fires in multiple places, and this is all paper products on pallets, right? So like this place goes up like a fucking tinder box, and like the whole time, if you watch the sort of like, I guess as near to raw videos as I can find, he's saying, you could have just paid us enough to fucking live the whole time, right? He's like, you fucking bastards. Like, you, like, this all could have been prevented. And you know what? These are the consequences. Sort of, this is the result of you guys exploiting us, right? But I watched, it on Fox, like a clip of them covering it on Fox, and they show the video, but they don't play the audio. And then the commentary from the hosts are like, we have no idea why he did this, right? It's like a complete erasure of like, I guess, what is obviously driving this guy, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, we don't know. Like, I have no idea what could have prompted this, right?
Yeah, that's a wild thing that the media has gotten really good at. And it works because there's like people living in two worlds. There's people who just believe everything the media says, and there's people who like backdoor the truth from open sources and from more reliable sources, right? So it creates this situation like when that synagogue attack happened in suburban Detroit, and people were just like, oh, this is an anti-Semitic attack. And it was like it was a Lebanese guy whose family was just killed in like an airstrike, an Israeli airstrike. It's not specifically about Jewish people. And this was also like a synagogue that was, supporting the IDF doing fucking like land acquisition in the West Bank. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Wow.
then the media just changes the perception. And so there's like half the population who know the truth. And then there's the, boomers and like spiritual boomers who are living in like a different world because they just eat it up because they're not as like connected to those streams of information. You know what I mean? And it's such an odd thing to like we talked about too, like that attack in Times Square with that guy who ended up being like a Afghani special operations like Afghani forces, and was like attacking specifically like a mercenary, like a private military contractor, and they were just like random shooter, random attack.
What could possibly be the cause? So I don't know if you've seen these like AI like propaganda videos that both Iran and China are like pumping out en masse, and they come out daily, and they're like super current, and they're very, I don't know what culture you would say it is, very internet brained, like, and what was the one? Yes, so at the same time as Trump is saying, "Oh, don't worry, hostilities are like going down," then Iran releases this video, "One vengeance for all." That's the one, right? Like, and they show like every like instance of like genocidal, horrible American violence. I don't know how else to describe it, right? Right from the genocide of the indigenous people in North
Oh
America,
yes. I know what video you're talking about. Yes, okay, yeah.
so on, and
Incredible propaganda.
oh yeah, that was a shame to admit that it was like,
No, well, the funniest thing that I see about that stuff is like people who are like people on their left who are just like, oh, I wish they wouldn't use the AI though. And it's just like, if that is your fucking objection right now, when we're fucking World War III, you know what I mean? And they're pumping out propaganda like for the moment, like that's how it's done. Like that's like
for sure. Well, as I remember learning about this concept, like I guess back when they taught critical thinking in school or something. But they talked about like jingoism, I think is the term, right? Where like, you know, the popular media is totally like all in on mobilized. They're controlling your behavior and thought patterns and setting it, taking. It's the same way that memes work.
yeah,
So
sure.
you already have this
Management.
idea in your head. Yeah. You already have this idea in your head, and it's like reinforced. It's like presented to you in a way that like you only get it if you agree already with the premise, right? Like
I have a huge thing about this. Like, I believe like there's like, you know, there's a big perception management machine around these types of technologies. And I believe that like the left has been entrapped in this like false consciousness about AI. And it was done intentionally, like by like relating it to very unlikable figures like Elon Musk, right? Because they they benefit from like there being like a like
hype around it, like
yeah,
like
they benefit from there being like a faux pas around the usage of these types of technologies. You know what I mean? It it's association, like it creates this association fallacy where it's like, oh, that's, you know, even like like a perfect example of this is with Tesla, how Elon has done the shit stain thing all over Tesla to the point where he owns Tesla's fucking patents. And so he is such a like despised character publicly. And I believe he does that intentionally to make it so that the things that he's associated with, all of this cutting edge stuff, and also these patents that have existed for fucking 70 years that he's helped, that he, you know, bought and then also, you know, helped suppress. He's not only helped suppress it, but now he's like, he's he's gotten his think all over it. So, and I think there's a huge it's just a like a it has to do with it's relative to oil and gas, because oil and gas are, you know, the centuries long intelligence apparatus that has this like culture creation. And there's this element of using these figures, attaching them to technology that would actually be beneficial to us.
yeah, come on. So it's like okay, yeah, they want these technologies to be at least in this seems to be like a Western
Yes,
thing.
absolutely. 1 million percent.
Um, you look at the advances made in like solar, like the way China is building solar, right? Like I read an article and it was like they're building so much solar shit that they're building the equivalent of a nuclear reactor, like 10 megawatts or whatever the fuck of energy production in a month. They're
Yeah.
just putting out so many panels. And then you look at the backwards fucking thinking of, I guess the Ford government here in Ontario, where they're like, yeah, we're going to do like nuclear, like maybe in 10 years, we'll have a single working nuclear fucking power plant. And then like in that 10 years, China will have built 100 and the equivalent of a 120 nuclear plants in solar, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
well, not even that. They'll beat us in the fusion race, which I think they already have. You know, it's just that it's so it's one of those things where both sides are holding their cards, right? And the US, like on the West, they're holding their cards because they don't want alternative to the petrodollar to get out. Whereas in China, they're holding it to their like they're holding their cards because it's for their national security. It's for the best interest of their people.
They can't
You-
show their power level. Yeah, molten salt reactor. I get
yeah, yeah.
molten salt reactor. Like what the fuck? And then these like crazy solar farms that are using molten salt like as a principle, right? They have these huge fields of like reflected ads, and then they point up at a fucking tower. Like
Yeah,
I
you know what it is too? They did that. They've done that to make it so that they can use it so that they're not generating it off of hydro, like off of electric water, because that ends up being like environmentally bad, right? But with the solar, they're really like they're pulling from the problem. Whereas like when you're doing like electrical hydroelectric stuff, you're still kind of fucking with the environment. There's very much a cost, but with solar, it's like you're pulling from the problem. And so they're using the solar to then power the fucking like these fusion generators.
so I this molten salt, because I had to like learn about this. So the shit is already molten. And there's so many advantages to it with the nuclear side of it, but also I guess the idea is at these extreme temperatures that'll generate electricity or what have you.
Well, it turns into fusion, right? So
Yeah.
you just because of the product that you have, you know what I mean? You don't even actually need like it's already done half the work for it. And yeah, like it's the compounds that they're using. It's like a step, like Pons and Fleischmann were the guys in the US who figured out cold fusion, but they realized that it shouldn't be called cold fusion because that in itself is like a misnomer, and in itself like is self-defeating, because they're saying that you're doing fusion without heat, but it's actually called low energy nuclear reaction. And
Oh,
that's and so what the fucking Chinese are doing is legitimate cold fusion. And the reason that it's the legitimate cold fusion is because they're not just using like salt water. They're using the molten salt,
yeah.
and this is what I remembered. I read that they were able to legitimately do like alchemy, where they're like creating, what's happening is there's like transfusion is happening when they're doing this, and which is proof that there is like a subnuclear reaction happening. And like when I see that, it's just like it's over. Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's
What are
over.
we doing? What are we doing? What are we? Yeah. What are we doing? It's so yeah. So yeah, they have some a fusion reactor, and like I think they got it to work for a billionth of a second or some shit. But like they fire laser beams or something. Like they're just so like and this other thing too with the chips, right? So there's they've built now an advanced like silicone lithography machine, and like
Yep.
a machine that builds the machines that make microchips. And like they're really close to like getting it going. It's so fascinating as to how yeah, this decline of the American empire is
Also,
like
I'm pretty sure there was a thing where they discovered a means in which to the thing that you create breadboards out of. Somebody figured out how to make it out of just sand using this thing that I'm talking about. I need to look this up. I need to look this up.
yeah, but electrics, That that was the other thing I think maybe we were gonna touch on was the Formula One 2026 regulations, um, which is you know very much all about this hybrid system, and I think you know the FIA. I think they're being pushed by the car manufacturers, right? Like this very powerful lobby group to like present this hybrid model, and um but they also have Formula E, right? And the
Yeah,
Formula E
Formula
cars,
E
like
is Formula E is kind of like the whole thing with Formula E was kind of just a fucking scam. You know about that? Like, at least
oh,
from
go
my
on,
knowledge, like
tell me. please.
Well, it was connected to the previous mayor of Montreal, and how it was kind of just like a purely like insider, like the means in which it got to these places was purely just like it was like a like a car show.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
it's all special interest. And so when the mayor of Montreal, I should probably look this up, but I remember when the mayor of Montreal, the previous mayor that was super corrupt, he got like his emails, there was like disclosure, and it showed that there was tons of like insider lobbying to get them to include like Formula E to be a part of
Grand Prix.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here, okay, I wasn't talking out of my ass. Okay, Montreal will no longer host the controversial Formula E electric car race now that Mayor Valérie Plante's administration has learned taxpayers would be expected to shell out $35 million for the second edition of the race, and this was in 2018. And so this is what happened. Like she came upon, he got ousted because of like all of this insane corruption that included like with Just for Laughs and like all of this stuff where he was just doing insider deals.
Right.
And
Paid
and
for
then
play.
yeah. And then she came on and just like a trove of information that she takes on because she's the mayor and just discovers all of this shit, And so because of because it's just lobbying, right? And so it really showed the inside of how this works with, it's just like you said, it's all with the with the manufacturers,
Yeah.
right? The auto manufacturers, but also beyond that with oil and fucking gas. Like, and of course, like the Saudis would be so deeply invested into that.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Right. And it's statecraft through like the petro system in a cultural way,
I think it's fucking hilarious that those races, I think it was, well, Saudi Arabia, like so Jeddah and I think Qatar, like those races were canceled because of just like all this fucking insane bullshit that fucking is happening in the Middle East. The weekend warfighter, right?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, weekend warfighter, like Friday, like, oh, we're gonna like rattle sabers, and then Monday morning, it's like, well, I don't know, like talks seem to be going really well. They really want to make a deal. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, holy fuck, you couldn't be more transparent about your insider trading. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Oh, it's so bad. That's so fucked.
Yeah, I mean, I can go on and on and on about what's happening there. It's fucking insane. It's like it's a new type of Keynesian war economy. This new Willy Woney, like this whole insider speculative, like Polymarket.
Oh, yeah, Kalshi and Polymarket.
Yeah, like that is a new type of Keynesian war economy that they've created. And so much of the fucking economy depends on this with like, short trading on oil contracts and everything like that. It's all just gambling, right?
Yes. 100%. I just, this whole, I got to learn way too much about shadow banking, shadow, which I think is actually like a term that like is low key anti-Semitic. Like, I don't know, like,
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Yeah, that it is because it's very much more to just say that that's um like finance capital, like
but it's the banks that are absolutely participating in it. That's why they're the ones that had to be like bailed out. It's because the chartered banks and like whatever. Oh, well, I guess in Canada we have chartered banks, but like, you know what
yeah,
I'm
but
saying?
it's not like, I think that it's the word bank that ends up being anti-Semitic, right? Whereas like if you're talking about it in terms of like multinational, like finance, you are very much more, it's not like, you're not thinking of it in this fucking like 19th century, like, 8 guys in a room, it's more like you're thinking of it in the terms of just like global capitalism.
Yes,
So,
100%. Yeah.
but I also think that notion in itself is absurd, where it's like, don't say that because it's actually anti-Semitic, like it like because something was said, 200 years ago that was anti-Semitic, that now actually is true currently
No,
because
yeah,
the
yeah,
conditions
yeah,
have changed.
sure.
But
Might be the like sort of the etymology or like roots or what have you, but it doesn't super have a bearing. And anyhow, I learned all this because of uh, it could happen here, and then they did a whole episode about these like not banking institutions doing banking things, and demystified some of this whole like subprime mortgage thing, like watching The Big Short. I did not understand like everything that was going on there, but like it was yes, it's quite entertaining to like and horrifying, obviously, to like have someone explain what the hell is actually going on there. Yeah, fascinating.
okay, first of all, okay, Mark Freeland. I need to, before we do anything, before we go any further, before we like continue on with this podcast, I need to make sure that the rules of the equity cards. Are you aware of this?
Equity cards?
Yes.
The concept is not even remotely familiar to me. So like this.
I believe you're from a diverse ethnic background,
Okay.
as am I, being a Quebecer. So, um, did you not see the NDP convention?
I did it. Okay, okay. And I'll admit I participated for the lulls. And it seemed to me that actually my sort of joking participation in it mirrored the general sentiment, which I think is kind of good. But I watched it was a race mostly between Heather McPherson, Rob Ashton, and Abby Lewis. They were the only three credible candidates, like and that was because Eve Engler and Bianca McGinniu were like velvet roped and like prevented from running, which was infuriating. And I don't actually think that the results of the NDP leadership race are going to have a significant impact on Canadian politics. Like what's been happening with the four crossings and the lib like just rah-rahing for Kearney, and just how fucking stupid Polyamor is, and like I don't actually think it's going to have a grand impact on anything. Like had it been an actual sort of revolutionary coded like okay, so there's this fucking weird thing where leftists who talk in a language that people can relate to really fucks up quote unquote the right wing. I don't think left and right is actually really like meaningful distinction nowadays. Exactly. Like
Yeah, I agree.
they're just like fucking buzzwords, just kind of throwing out a symbol that is so vague that hopefully the person that you're speaking with agrees with you, like about what
Yep.
they, but that it really fucks people up to see someone speak plainly about kind of um anti-capitalist ideas, let's say. Okay, and like you can see that with um Hassan Piker in the States. I don't know specifically how to like categorize him, but like he's like getting hits on Fox News and shit like that. You know what I mean? This dude is like um in the mainstream media. He's being targeted by, let's say, well-funded PACs inside of the Democratic Party, So like people don't know how to like deal with that. It like fucks them up. So Eve and Bianca like would have been like sort of these genuine voices, but they were excluded from the race. So I just
Yeah, and I mean there's a long history, right? Like of that in like connected to Barry Weisletter and the waffle, and even connected to Avi Lewis and his family. Uh, um, and
yeah,
that's the thing. I
he was
think that
an outsider, right? But then his family has this long history of being politicians and
yeah,
being
he's an outsider in that he is a nepo baby, right? And like was like he didn't have a place in politics, so he got a career, and then like now he's just backdooring his way into politics. And I feel like what this does is it, because of like what's happening right now, this consolidation of the center right now in Canadian politics, is like it creates this cutout for a more quote unquote like I don't want to even say radical because it's absolutely not, but I'm using air quotes, radical left, but it's the type of radical left that's talking about like tax the rich and stuff like that. And it ultimately just serves its containment, like there was a thing that happened recently with like where Carney took away the federal tax on gas, when it's just like, why don't you put a windfall tax on the corporations?
yeah.
And even when you do say that, right, let's put a windfall tax on the on the corporations that are benefiting from this war. Do you think Yves Angler is that's his talking point? No, the talking point is, why the fuck is Canada involved in any of this? Why are we allowing corporations to be benefiting and making money off of this fucking war? But what they do is they create these talking points that are acceptable because one, they will go nowhere. You know what I mean? Because no one gives a fuck when you talk in that language. And two, it actually helps Carney, because if Carney then say like puts out an olive branch to the NDP every once in a while, right? It makes him look progressive, right? And it's very much like the card that Trudeau always played, but way like reined in, way more like held back. Also because the NDP is, they have 7 seats, so it doesn't even matter. But like he's going to use them as like the things he won't say that they will say, because what they are saying is still like in alignment with the overall politics of the Canadian state. So it creates this containment, and I'll be honest too, like even Hassan is the type of person that creates that containment, because like it's it's similar, like the thing we were talking about with Chomsky, right? Like it's the
I was
exact same,
thinking, yeah.
right? Like you create this acceptable line and then everybody falls to it. And then it's just like, oh, and China's doing genocide, like that type of shit, where it's just like you say all of this acceptable stuff that everybody comes along with you. And then it's like, oh, Maduro is a dictator, right? Like, and I'm not saying Hassan has said that, but like, but it's the same type of shit. Like it's the same type of tactics where, you know what I mean? You say all like fucking Zorian is a perfect example of this, right? Where it's like you project that he's gonna say this, and then he says like he wishes Shabbat happy Passover, like it has nothing to say about
Photograph a bunch of Zionists, like
yeah.
in like I don't know.
If people think he's gonna like speak out about like the Maduro kidnapping or like the Iran war.
They just have to put up a symbol, right? And and that symbol doesn't necessarily have to be like impactful or anything like that. It just has to be a symbol of them being different, so they can be slightly othered by the centrists, right? Even though like so they'll pick like these, I don't know, specific issues where they can have the quote unquote radical take on it.
Yep.
And then because they have this radical take on this one topic, then people ignore all the other fucking bullshit, the same old bullshit, right? So
Another good example of it is like, say with the NDP will say like, okay, we need to control algorithmic pricing. No, voted down. We need to have the municipal run federal line grocery stores. No, voted down, right? But then it's like, oh, we need to have like this new expanded social development program that like people can apply to. That's like, it's tested, but it's like,
tested is that thing where there's some condition
yes,
where you have to like qualify for it. So
like
that's
the dental thing, right? Like, and
yeah,
then the liberals are like, actually, yes, we will vote for this, because in the end,
like set at such a like that so few people like
yeah, and in the end, too, that type of policy is honestly written by the liberals and handed off, not literally, but in a sense it is, because it's like, what are the liberals going to accept? And it's in alignment with all the things because, the Liberal Party of Canada has a fucking monopoly on social causes. So like they'll never do things that are like actually socialized, but they will do things like, say, like a universal basic income that is conditional and that is like purely that it is just like a subsidy for landlords and grocery stores and Amazon.
gamified somehow, like
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
to be exploited by those people that are most able to do some loopholes and whatnot, and the people that actually need it like are not able to do the machinations like required to like actually benefit from them.
Right. So it's like
Or be cut off at any time. Like
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Or
like it's like a liberal policy that gets handed to the NDP, right? And then the NDP propose it, or the NDP are part of the like putting the bill to like together, right? When it was the liberals the entire time. And what the NDP's purpose is to sell the idea to their base when they should actually be against that shit and it should be way further. But that type of socialization closes the door forever on like doing something different.
because we already did a thing.
Yeah. And
Wait.
now it's in our constitution, it's in our charter, right? Like we already did these things. So like we're not gonna like we already have this new social development program that you brought on. So why don't we do this grocery store thing?
And if
right?
you're not taking advantage of it and you still can't raise yourself out of poverty, even though we've done this performative thing, then surely you're the problem. You're the morally deficient one, right?
Yeah, there's jails and there's fucking prisons that they're gonna stack 10 high, that's the path for you. Or fucking
Did you see this GardaWorld? Because I think they're based in Montreal. But I guess they have some kind of like involvement in that like ICE prison, alligator Alcatraz. I don't know if you read anything about that, but like I guess GardaWorld, like all those fucking security like armored trucks, like taking your fucking money to the billionaires, like you know what I mean, or like putting it in the fucking ATM so you can spend it on Labubus or whatever the fuck it is you're buying. Like, but yeah, they're somehow like mixed up with these the for-profit ICE fucking system. Like,
I'm looking at it how a Montreal-based security firm stands to cash in on the US immigration crackdown.
that's
GardaWorld received money from Quebec, just won the contract for ICE detention center worth up to nearly $1 billion Canadian dollars. That's what I mean. It's like that should be fucking like that shit should be illegal, right? Like there should be laws to make it so that Canadian companies cannot be fucking involved in that type of shit.
Is Abby Lewis talking about that? No, he probably isn't talking about that. I don't know. I was hoping to give him a lot of credit, right? Like Abby Lewis. Like I don't know. I guess he's the most radical in air quotes sounding guy, right? But I think all of them were like, "Gee, the Americans are bad," right? but they all did the but the Iranian
Yeah,
regime
exactly.
is bad. So and that was universal, I think, among, I don't know about the cowboy farmer guy and then the very, very young super socialist candidate, the bottom two. Unfortunately, they weren't, they were not terribly, I don't know. I was gonna say credible. I don't think credible is the right word, but
I mean, I think a lot of it is just an audition for those people to get pushed to be in positions either federally or provincially in the next. Like it's just a like, here's who we have. It's very much it's like a convention type event where you're just displaying, the future of the party. The type of people that you want.
we got a dude, and we got yellow belt Marxist philosopher person also, like, you know what I mean? Um, but I thought it was universal that all five of them were like, yeah, but Iran bad.
Yeah, and there's also like an aspect where like no matter what you say about certain things, like, we want to have municipal grocery stores, you want to have expanded socialized programs, you can't have that while also spending 3% GDP on fucking military. You know what I mean? You can't be for both of those things. Like those are contradictions. Like you just can't do it, so it's like and people don't see that where it's like one cancels out the other. You can't have both. You can't be like a Warhawk and also be, have this idea of like mass socialization, because the way that you want it will not be that way, because it will always be like corporate welfare, like we said, UBI, right? Where it's really just money it's like CERB. It's money that's being put in the hands of lower class people, then put right back into the hands of the corporate class, whether it's landlords, fucking Amazon, fucking grocery stores, etc.
Well, it was terrible too. Serb especially was like ripe for abuse because it was institutionalized, structured in such a way that the money was supposed to go to the employer, like the capitalist, right? Like, you know what I mean? And then those people were supposed to like equitably distribute it to their workers. Like, of fucking course it was going to be it was like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, oh my god, right? I it just fucking fucked up. It still gets me that like EI, like, I think the maximum benefit that you can possibly receive is like less than two grand. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do with that?
Yeah,
Like, what are
and
you
they
gonna
like
do? You're
they like
fucked. Like, fucked.
they like
Oh,
intentionally make it so you have to game the system, right, to be
yeah,
able to survive. It's like you only get like 50% of the wage you were making. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it caps off at like 296, right?
yeah.
And that's it. And then it doesn't matter if you were making 10 grand and you got laid off and you've been paying into, you know what I mean? You've been paying into EI. And this is like the thing that like this is what you were saying with like the, right wingers don't know how to deal with people who talk about this type of shit in the terms that like we would talk about it, where it's not like, oh, it's because of fucking immigration, it's because of there's so many fucking Indians, you know what I mean, that are coming here and taking some magic money from the government, when
I
it's
get
just like, no, it's the state is corrupt. The like that it has nothing to do with these magical scapegoats. Like it's very clear. Like you can't have like a pride in like the system and then shit on it without like going to these scapegoats. And that's why people need to have this like disillusionment where it's just like, no, the system is against you. This whole like it's designed to rip you off. It's designed to give you bread and call it fucking a fucking turkey dinner.
oh,
You know?
oh,
Okay, so to bring this, I know the perfect way to get us back on track here, to get us onto our timeline here, because I fucking worked for MLSE during COVID. Okay. And when we got And when we got first laid off, okay, the fucking CERB wasn't even like CERB hadn't even been created yet. Okay. And there was, because we were like the first people that got laid off, there was this huge Toronto fund for like the Leafs and the Blue Jays and all of these fucking like the NHL donated money to this fund that was gonna go like to the workers.
Right. Oh, God.
They the fucking CEO of the MLSE at the time, who was a fucking formerly worked for apartheid South Africa companies. He was just a straight up fucking completely aligned with apartheid South Africa. I can't remember Michael Freesdal, but he told the Toronto Star, and this is in like April, right? People don't know what the fuck they're doing. This is April 2020.
Like, no more air travel.
CERB, no, but I mean, like, CERB hasn't been done yet, right?
Yeah.
Like, the 1st of April is already passed. I was laid off in fucking like, the Utah game, like March 13th, I think it was. So, like, I didn't have any money. And then the fucking CEO of fucking MLSE goes to the Toronto Star and says that they're helping their employees, that like they are helping them. So like my landlord is like, I read in the paper that you guys are getting money. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, why would you make that statement? We're not getting anything. We're not seeing any money. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know? And like, I have a family connection to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like my dad was close personal friends, like my dad's family's close personal friends with George Armstrong's family. They're both from the same area in like Falconbridge, Ontario.
Okay.
Like George Armstrong was captain of the Leafs last time the Leafs won the Stanley Cup. So like it was like an honor to work for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That experience,
Destiny, like, yeah.
that experience completely disillusioned me to that fucking franchise, to everything that place is, everything that fucking parasitic fucking organization is. That to the point, like when they lost to Montreal in that series, like 2 years later, in the shortened season where it was just like the North, like the Canada League, and then they played the Habs. They had a 3-1 series lead, and I was still an employee of MLSE, but I wasn't working there because of like it wasn't safe to be there, you know.
So they were playing to empty arenas.
Yeah.
Oh my
Or
God.
very like a limited space. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Or like the thing is like I have asthma, and I have like I'm very like prone to infection. So like I'm vaccinated. I'm not like an anti-vaxxer or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like I'm talking about at a workplace, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just not how safety works. You know what I mean? If someone like can't do a certain thing and is protected by all of the other like fail safes, the part of the fail safe is that other people will be masked. But like if I'm working as like, because I was like a production hand, Teamster production hand, and there is a protocol for wearing masks among like the workers. And it was one of those things where it was just like, well, if he's not wearing a mask, then why shouldn't I? The point is, it's like that's not how safety works. Apart from, I don't want my point to be misconstrued, because it's going to be. It's just that my issue was that, like, one, there is no mask rule for people who are going to watch the hockey games, right? And then two, there you are claiming that there is like a protocol, mask protocol, and like vaccine protocol that like people that I knew that were like, QAnon MAGA types who refused to get vaccinated, who refused to wear masks, who didn't work during this period of time. And so they were claiming that everyone was following the protocol, but no one was following the protocol. And like, I have like, I'm not just talking out of my ass. Like I have a doctor's like a doctor's recommendation not to wear a fucking mask while I'm working for like long periods of time. If I'm walking up a huge amount of stairs, etc., things like that. And I'm like, that risk can be taken because I should be around other people who are masking. And they weren't doing that. And so I just refused to work. And it was to the point where they just agreed with my grievance but we're just like, it's not going to be something that is going to like, you're not going to get any, like, you're not going to get anything for it. You just don't have to work. You know what I mean? You don't have to show up and you're still an employee. Right. But,
Okay.
and so because of this, during this time, just insanely disillusioned by MLSE, right? Had worked for them since like 2017. And then when they lost to the Habs in that series, it was in 2021. That was it. That's when I completely cut ties with that team. And now I revel in everything that I witness about like all of everything that is happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like it is so beautiful to see Montreal.
Oh, just killing it. Just killing it. I don't watch a lot of hockey, but Montreal is killing it. And isn't Suzuki like he's their captain, right? And like he's just having like an incredible season, no?
Yeah, and that's what I mean is that it's just very satisfying to watch these other fan bases who have always had like I mean not with Montreal but definitely with Ottawa and Buffalo with like being kind of like a vassal team to the Leafs market wise, and it's so great to see them having success without a massive amount of investment. And the Leafs are such a perfect example of like corporate Canada and like a crown corporation type thing, that is like a connection to the state.
JaVale.
Yeah, that's like connected to the state and it expands and then it sells off all the parts. And then the selling off all the parts, that becomes like the means in which it like gets value. And that's where it is right now is like when they got Matthews, they basically, it just created like a speculative bubble till right now. And that bubble is burst, right? Like they didn't actually have to build anything, just the promise that something was coming was enough for everybody to show up and you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is the opium. Yeah. Yeah. And actually the crash when they're out in the first round only just heightens that anticipation for the following year. Like, yeah, this time we'll get it right. It was
Yeah.
that one asshole. It was that one asshole that fucked all up for us. That the goalie or
Yeah.
coach or
And that like this year's the year. And like I've written about this a bunch, like the parallel between like that and like the NDP is so like there's such a clear parallel where it's just
right
like
now, because
like
they're such a cult personality, right? Like you don't know, like that. There's nothing about the NDP except leader, right?
right.
And then,
Yeah.
like this really turned me off. But we've got some dude that runs in my riding, NDP guy. I don't even know his fucking name. But like his campaign posters don't say candidate name. They say leader name. Jagmeet Singh. You know what I mean? They're like, what the fuck, man? This guy is nowhere to be seen for 4 years. And then like every 4 years, I see a couple of fucking really shitty fucking lawn signs. Like, bro, like, like, show the fuck up, man.
I mean, yeah, they're just so bad. Like, and like the point that like the thing with the NDP and the Leafs, it's always just like I swore them off, but this year's the year. I swore them off before, but like this year's the year. They're really getting it together, and it's like the same thing. It's the same, and it's just on the prospect. Like they're selling you on the prospect of hope, but never giving you anything to hope for. Like it's the idea of something is out there, but like it's not like it's something that's like other teams have it, like, and I moved to Montreal, not because of the Leafs, but because like Toronto is unaffordable and Quebec has different laws that it's a little bit easier for tenants, but since I moved there, that has almost been eliminated besides maybe not having to pay first and last month's rent. But anyways, besides the point, from having gone to Montreal Canadiens games and having like seen how Montreal Canadiens fans operate when the team is not doing well versus the Leafs, it's just like it's the difference between like a culture behind a sports team and like a feudal system, and then you have these lords like the fucking Steve Dangles and the fucking
How you feel about this?
you know, but it's true because they keep the copium going, you know, and because these figures are out there who aren't being like, fuck this team, why are we fucking keeping up with, like, why are we putting up with this? Everyone still, like, the pyramid keeps going, you know, because there's these figures who are like, I'll never give up hope, when it's like, you're a fucking loser. What do you mean you never give up hope? You're being fucking exploited. This team sucks. Like, they don't care. And so to you sent me this article, and I need to read a bunch of it because it's just so glorious. The inside the stunning fall of the Maple Leafs.
Right. With the AI talking points and the strategy meeting or something.
Yeah, so I'll read a little bit of this. So the Athletic, yeah, April 15th. Inside the stunning fall of the Maple Leafs, chaos, dysfunction, and AI. And so it spoke to the gravity of the situation that he felt compelled to be there at all. Inside the war room at the Toronto Maple Leafs suburban practice facility ahead of the March 6th trade deadline. Seldom does a finely tailored suit from the C-suite rub shoulders directly with scouts who spend hundreds of days pounding the pavement each year looking for players. But there was Keith Pelly, the president and CEO of MLSE, overseeing the action. Pelly had never taken that approach with the NBA's Toronto Raptors or MLS Toronto FC, the two other big league clubs he oversees, nor had he been in the room on trade deadline day a year earlier when Brendan Shanahan was still president of the Leafs. But he was concerned by the direction the team was taking under general manager Brad Treleving and felt it necessary to get a firsthand view at how the front office operated under pressure and arrived at decisions. Pelly viewed himself as merely an observer, but others there felt differently. He didn't sit in silence. He peppered the team's scouts with questions and demanded more assets and trade conversations and tossed out opinions and ideas. This is the best part. As one team source put it, fans would have been surprised to see just how involved the non-hockey executive was that day. Pelly didn't come empty-handed either. He had notes that included possible trade returns that Leafs staff members believed were generated by large language models and artificial intelligence, tools that have become increasingly influential at the top of MLSE, but hadn't been a part of the usual process with its NHL team. Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. They're just, it was fucking AI. Like, you can't pay. You're just selling off the parts and replacing it with fucking AI and this speculative fucking technology that like only works in the way that you think it works. And like, if you're just using it to replace someone, it's never going to fucking do that thing because you don't know what they did, right? If you got that person to maybe use these tools, then maybe there would be a
It makes me think of like, like Trump. I think they're the Supreme Court in the United States is going to rule on him. So I guess he's like he's just going to show up for like the Supreme Court hearings. It's not the same thing because obviously this guy from the Leafs like actually gets to speak or what have you, but Trump was going to like show up and try and like kind of intimidate and like control discourse. And then I think he realized that Supreme Court proceedings are boring as fuck, right? Like, and he was like, "Fuck this, I'm leaving."
He did go though. That did happen.
Yeah,
he did happen.
Like it was true, like just to intimidate people. Like, but this sort of seems like the same thing. But it's similarly this stupendously unqualified buffoon that's been fed garbage from the internet, right? Like they have no idea what's actually going on. They just have these opinions that they like, I don't know, like came from 4chan and Reddit posts, and they're like, this is what is supposed to be happening. Like it's madness.
Yeah, like the buffoon showing up and like because he's such a fucking idiot, like And because he's like coming from this place of authority and also like, I'm going to replace you, that like it just removes the incentive to work for that person. You know what I mean? It's just like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why would you like, the, like, what de-skilling is?
De-skilling.
Like,
So
sorry, what is your trade?
I am a laborer. So you would say that this is a craft. It's not so much a trade as it is a craft. And that just means I'm a jack of all trades.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. It's
I
it's
like
multiple trades.
Yeah, so the end product is the finished product, right? Like so, and that requires multiple disciplines.
Right.
So, for example, like building a pinball machine means you need to know about like carpentry, electrics, like a whole bunch of shit. And like as a laborer, I'm building a tunnel or something in this case. And so you need to know a bunch of different shit in order to get that done. It's different from being like a trade union where like you're an electrician. Like yes, you're building a tunnel, but like you only deal with this like small part of this part of the operation.
Right. Well, okay, yeah, I thought that's what you were, like a specialized tradesperson. But yeah, that makes sense. I was like a laborer amongst electricians, like in the same type of way, like,
Yeah.
years and years ago, where it's just like, there's laborers who are part of like the laborers union, and then you're assigned to electrician union, right? Where it's just like, because the electricians aren't going to fucking do labor work, right? So they would,
Yeah. So I end up having to like do a lot of shit for the electricians because they're like, we need this shit done, but like we don't do that stuff. And then so I end up having to learn a little bit of what the electricians are doing so that I can do that job effectively, right? Like
so de-skilling is like, how like there's like the, how there's like the fucking
college of trades and whatnot, or
right, and like, like the journeyman system, like where it's like you're a journeyman master, right? So like,
yeah.
de-skilling is like the inverse of that, where like like say if someone came up to you who was like a non-union person who and like was like, can you show me what you do? Can you show me what your daily like job is? And then like they like learn about it, and then when you go on strike or when you no longer like, yeah, you know what I mean? So then they like, they're no longer like, the corporate is no longer in the dark because they have these non-union people who have de-skilled from like
Yes, yeah, it's I understand, or uh, like instead of they create. I think in my industry they create like these alternate certifications, right? Where they're like every person can just go get this kind of like training or
right, yeah.
certification, and you no longer have to go through like say a union process to like try and because get that experience and like go through an apprenticeship and so on, right?
Like someone who's working on permit, right?
Yes, yeah, that is like a really great way. So, but you would imagine that you would go through the permit process as part of your trying to apply for an apprenticeship, and then. So I think that there's some of that where
So like de-skilling would be like, say someone who did that, like was non-union, got all this experience from working around unions, and then like a corporation, like say in my instance, like MLSE, then hired that person to be like a foreman. And so they have no actual experience. Their experiences, no, they didn't come up through the union.
this is interesting because
It's like, so that person is willing to jump on a forklift when you shouldn't be, you know what I mean? Those types of things, right?
man, we get a lot of that. We got dudes that like because of hierarchy, think that they are eminently qualified to like fucking do whatever, and like they jump in a skid steer or some shit like that, and you're like, holy fuck, like we need to stay the fuck away from this machine right now because okay, I was thinking about this comes meritocracy. So meritocracy has kind of like two different definitions. There's one that is like what a normal kind of sane, rational person would think. Like this person is best suited to do this job. Therefore, based on merit, they ought to do this job. But meritocracy isn't actually that. I don't believe. It takes the form of like the guy who has the ticket. That doesn't mean that he is, and I've been in this situation before where I've been a foreman on a job. There's chainsaw work to do. Okay. And like I'm the only guy with the chainsaw ticket. Okay. But that doesn't mean shit. I don't know shit, man. Like if you gave me a saw and like told me to like take care of it and like run it, like like I'm gonna kill that saw and I'm not gonna know how to fix it. Like I just have like, you know, I'm just not qualified to like do that. But on paper I am. So but that is the real kind of imagine meritocracy as a slur, you know, and as instead of as a rational, like logical method of organizing a hierarchy, right?
Yeah,
Like
because
so
there ends up being a class aspect, right? Because
yeah,
you
absolutely, absolutely.
if you have access to go and get these tickets, if you have time
Yeah,
and access to go, because like where I'm from in Sudbury, that there's like an entire place, like to get even on mine property, to get on mine property, you have to go to like one of these specialized places to get a ticket, right? And
yeah,
so, but then that's the difference is like someone who has the time and the money to go and do that, they're going to have access to that line of work. Whereas someone who's like maybe is like a garbage man, a private contractor for a garbage man or like a roadside worker.
he grew up. He was born with a chainsaw in his fucking hands. He's like grew up in fucking Quebec and like chopped down trees for his entire fucking life. And like, you know, knows his way inside and out of a fucking two-stroke motor. Like, and that guy doesn't have the ticket. But this stupid fucking urban raccoon motherfucker ends up having to run the fucking saw and like because what like and that is that yeah, this is de-skilling, and I guess that I've like, you know, unfortunately, like I don't think I've participated in that like kind of like willingly, but because of the sort of like litigious like liability laden like nature of like how it is that we're supposed to conduct our fucking lives.
Right.
Like the guy that is like way fucking better and like who knows his way in and out, like all the way around a fucking chainsaw will not touch the fucking saw because he is terrified that like, you know what I mean, somehow this merit badge, this fucking Boy Scout fucking I got my chainsaw ticket fucking thing is like he doesn't have it. Even
Yeah.
though oh
No, yeah, you're right. I never thought of it that way because you're that the ticket system is kind of a systemization of the de-skilling, right? Because
yeah,
someone came along and said these are the things that you have to do to get this. And so
and
then
oh it's 100% also like liability and litigious activity like kind of driven, right? So the purpose of it is not that Mark is skilled at or knowledgeable or experienced at running a fucking chainsaw. It is that he has a piece of paper that says that he is competent.
yeah. And you
So
know
that
what then
if something goes wrong, then the liability is on me, right?
but it's also that if something goes wrong, and are connected to enough people that it wouldn't hurt the company that has hired you, right? Because you have that ticket.
Yeah.
Whereas someone else who might have cut their head off with a chainsaw, or someone else who would have prevented someone from getting their head cut off by a chainsaw, right? They don't care about that. It's purely just the liability. It's purely
Yeah.
just what is going to reflect on the company, and is the company liable for it, right?
Yeah.
And so
None
it's
of
just,
the performance of the job. It's only about liability. That's it.
yeah, and like in a super industrial town like where I'm from in Sudbury, it becomes so it becomes so systemized because, like, say if you have a DUI, right, then you can't get access to all of these other things, right? And so say if you're from an ethnic minority, if you're part indigenous, so you might have more police scrutiny on you, right? And so because of that, you have a DUI, and then you can't get access to these tickets to then become socially mobile. You know what I mean? And it's like generations and generations of that. And yeah, I never thought of that the ticket system is like a systemized version of that de-skilling. I was more thinking of it in like a way of like in the gig economy. You know what I mean? Where there's such like specialized work.
And it's sort of the scab thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, but it's like in this weird way that like it's in this universe where like they don't think that people know what a scab is. You know what I mean? Where they're just trying to take your skills from you and just being like, can you just like show me what you do? So like if you're ever not here, we can like still do like the job. And it's just like, no. Like, how about no? How about you pay me 10 grand to do that? You know? Like, yeah, I can go on about this or on and on. So could you. I had a couple of thoughts. The sabotage wave, and just like where that kind of thing is going, because there's definitely something there on like multiple levels. I think like in a more under the radar level that has to do with oil and gas refineries and things like that. I think there's very much,
Because you said you like when you mentioned these oil and gas refineries, like to me they'll like I think in Cuba there was a
oh
but
yeah,
like I don't know, but that's clearly like something else. That's not workers sabotaging themselves. I don't think like the working class guy in or person in Cuba is like blowing up the refinery or what have you. Like
but
just
that's how it presents. Like,
yeah,
that's how it looks on the ground, right? But it's
that's
obviously that's not what's happening. But like because they use that as the cover.
wow. Yeah, but there's that thing that's a regime change like playbook, right? Like where they like sufficiently completely impoverish like the working class in a nation through sanctions and embargoes and whatnot. And then they're like, oh, the regime there must be so bad because look how like angry and starved those people are. So obvious. And then people are like, but I don't know, the regime looks pretty bad. Like maybe it's good that we're bombing bombing their schools or something. Like
Yeah, and I mean, I have a point just even about that stuff with like the Cuba thing. Like, I think it's kind of even when like right now, like when people from the West like have gone and done those missions and things like that there, and amidst all of what's happening, there's like this aspect where people do this thing where they talk about like not everyone in Cuba is gung ho about the regime. Not everyone in Cuba is crazy about their government. And it's just like, what the fuck is the point of even saying that if you're going there as a Westerner? Because all you're doing is creating the pretext to normalize that that's a sentiment without giving the context that the reason that people aren't gung ho about the government is because of the conditions that the US has
yeah,
created. And
it's
so you're just you're just backdoor and
wow,
things, right?
it's because that regime there is like totally oppressing the shit out of their people. It's got nothing to do with America. Like they just
Yeah. Or the current president, it bothers me. I can't remember his name, but he's very inaffectionate. He's a very like he's a doofus. Like he's for sure a doofus. But like that doesn't matter. Who fucking cares? We're not gonna like. It's not a talking point to say like, oh yeah, there's a lot of people in Cuba that think he's a fucking clown. And like, if you're a Westerner going there and voicing that, it's so detrimental to like the optics, where it's just like,
I would
uh,
love to see like because for the most part they show these rallies and they talk to people that are part of like a diaspora, right? Like if you were to go find Americans that had emigrated from America, probably specifically to do with their unnamed current president or whatever, can you imagine what those people would fucking say? Like I'll bet you there's, you know, let's say refugees. I'm not trying to cheapen that word there or anything, but there's probably some American refugees in Canada. Like I bet. And if you go and talk to them, they would probably have some very fucking unkind things to say about the current president.
well, I
Like,
mean, that the thing is, like, I know there is, I live in Montreal and there is a lot of quote unquote American refugees to Canada. It's that they're upper middle class and they have the ability to leave, right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
and so it's like they're the expat, like, right? Like it's those types of people who have the ability to uproot themselves, you know.
We're gonna,
But yeah.
like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I bet you even in the inverse, I bet you there's some people who are like because of like ICE and things like that. I mean, I bet there's at least one. Like people who have like a family connection or like a heritage connection to Cuba who have gone back to Cuba because of, you know what I mean? Because of I like people in fucking like like Alabama or like Louisiana. I'm speaking purely of ignorance about this, but like this is a fact. The life expectancy rate in Cuba is slightly higher than it is in the United States. The literacy rate in Cuba is exponentially higher than it is in America.
Oh yeah, like I
Cuba,
read an
Cuba has a
article.
vaccine for lung cancer.
Yeah. Oh, did you see this? Pancreatic cancer. Um, so I guess they're able to like synthesize a messenger RNA vaccine that like prolongs pancreatic cancer sufferers like a fucking outrageous amount. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's this incredibly
Oh
deadly
my god.
form of fucking cancer. And like this is like an incredible massive like medical fucking breakthrough in my
Yeah.
opinion.
This is
And
it's Cuba is actively treating pancreatic cancer using innovative biotechnology, notably the monoclonal antibody nemotuzumab, which has shown success in increasing survival rates for advanced indent carcinoma.
this
So
is this is in Cuba?
yeah, what's crazy too, Mark, is that like the U.S. will say that they're developing bioweapons. That's what this is. That this is a bioweapon.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah.
because it's like this biotech that's used to fight cancer. They will literally. That's why this is a part of why, and this is a good segue to what we were talking about.
They
Like
must be destroyed.
like with Bush, when Bush said that Cuba was developing like biological weapons, this is the type of shit that they were pointing to. Like
Right, right.
this type of biotech research that they were doing at the time was to develop this type of innovative cancer research shit to fight fucking cancer in ways that because they're the product of the embargo, they only have so many ways to do this, right? So everything is like this advanced type of it's like holistic medicine, but advanced. And they export it. And that's a huge part of just like the Cuban, like,
Impetus to destroy them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also like the resilience of them and why they are like why they won't ever go away because they're embedded in the well-being of all of the global self because of their a resource, because of their innovation in these fields that is cut off from the West. So it's like it's not even happening.
That just made me think of there's this thing, and I read something about enriched uranium. Well, like enriched uranium isn't only for bombs,
Yeah.
right? So for like medical shit, right? So like if you can't enrich uranium, you like can't do X-rays or some. I like obviously I'm no doctor or fucking scientist, but it's like no, actually, there's like important shit that we need that stuff for.
I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure that uranium is used in some types of chemotherapy. This might
Yeah,
be
yeah.
to say.
Or like medical imaging and stuff like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And that there's a certain percentage of enrichment, and like so Iran is just like supplying the world actually with medical diagnostic shit. And like wow, it's just because there's this very like racist notion that Iran is like just completely backward, like it's kind of like Orientalism, but like they must be just a bunch of backward fucking Bedouins on camels. So
Yep.
like nothing they can possibly be doing can be like normal or like or normal Western. It can't be like benevolent.
Yep.
But anything they must be doing is malevolent or like war mongering, right? And then look at what we got with like fucking Jeffrey Epstein. He's like doing like genome shit or whatever with like MIT and like all these fucking universities so he can make more Jeffrey Epsteins. And they're like, oh, like good, good. He's like funding fertility research or some shit like that. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, no, that guy is a bad guy. That guy is a bad guy. Like, no, that's not good. It's like, oh fuck. And then
Yeah.
meanwhile, we get these other countries that are like, we invented a cure for fucking cancer. And they're like, fucking bioweapons, destroy them all. Like, oh my God. We're like, we've got this rich uranium to like do MRIs or some.
So So this is it. So uranium is not used directly as chemotherapy. It's
okay.
used to produce medical isotopes, that alpha emitting isotopes derived from reprocessed uranium that are used to destroy cancer cells, precisely often for advanced cancers, while sparing healthy tissue. So
Oh,
they can tune these isotopes to go after these certain cells using uranium. And you know, it would make sense too. Like this makes sense. Like obviously a place like Iran would do this and then bring it to somewhere like Cuba that would be able to use these types of advanced isotopes in a greater way than say they would, you know what I mean? And it would empower them.
welcome, baby. Yeah, let's do this.
The thing, like the sick irony is that like the US and like the Western ignorance towards Iran and like the Orientalism, it ensures Iran's victory. Like in the same way that like in like Barbarossa with Hitler and the Soviet Union, just like thinking that they were destined to go through the mud and that they weren't going to get trapped in the fucking mud just because they were the, you know, the Aryan race. And it's just like this blind ignorance where it's like your victory is what defeats you. You know what I mean? Like, and like the Iran thing is such a beautiful example of it because they won't even accept the type of technology that exists that Iran has because it's so cutting edge and it also cuts into oil and gas, right? Because there's aspects of their like advanced radar systems and things like that could be fucking used to transmit wireless energy. You know what I mean? And it's the same shit that China has and like they won't admit that they have it because it's literally a matter of it hurts their
that there's humans over there.
yeah, and also that like it hurts their system, like their hold on the petrodollar through like oil and gas, like by saying there is no alternative. But like Iran is demonstrated by using these types of advanced radar systems that like there is alternatives. We're transmitting energy fucking across this. There's a whole thing where like the US can't even fly in to like they have to like, you know, every time that they try, they either get shot down or they have to like come in on these little corridors and shoot into these spaces
It's Top
can't,
Gun Maverick.
and they can't actually like fly into these areas because there's advanced radar that will take them out.
Oh my God.
Uh,
Did you see it? Top Gun Maverick.
yeah, I mean it's crazy now. Like thinking in contrast, how it's the exact same thing, even to the point that it's fucking Iran.
So this made me just sort of go back a bit there. So I'm sure you saw the American propaganda videos, which to me I believe are sort of like their recruitment videos. They're like, fuck, like nobody wants to go die for Israel, right? So they have the White House like posting all these fucking videos, and they're like unclassified footage of like cruise missile strikes of trucks and cars being blown up in Iran. And like, and then they would have like video game like title screens and shit. They would like, boom, wasted, GTA 5 shit. Or they posted there was some the very, very blood and soil, like Nazi coded, like crazy shit images. Like, I mean, I guess it all culminates with Trump like reposting or posting whatever an image of himself like depicted as Jesus, like clearly, like so there's this like totally like fucking unhinged like ethno-nationalist fucking deranged propaganda machine in America, which like I don't know what it's meant to do, like galvanize support among the base, like recruit new fucking soldiers, like I don't fucking know. And then when you look at the Iranian and like Chinese like dunks, because there's no other way to describe them. They put together these AI videos like fucking Lego characters like rapping, and like they feature like drunk Cash Patel or something like that. And there's like a whole like fucking rap song and like drunk Cash Patel. Like, oh my God. It's
It's like
so
a Lego video that he's rapping, and he's rapping about like the
yes.
indigenous genocide of like in America, or like he's rapping about like the Spanish like conquisition of South America,
God, oh my, it
or
so
like the 1953 coup of Iran.
but see, the weird thing is that it is not that. It is not like these disconnected. What is so striking about this propaganda that is coming out of China and Iran is that they are actually more just like factual reporting. Yeah, yeah. They're just like describing the things that are going on. The one that I saw, like that
Well, like
really
that one dude who's just standing in front of the podium the entire time, just being like, "Hell will rain upon you, Mr. Trump," and it's just like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, give like all day, dude.
the
Like,
one that hit me so hard is there's like a kung fu movie. It's a kung fu movie. Trump is sort of like depicted as an eagle wearing a blue suit with a red tie, and like they go and assassinate the Meowatola, and it's a cat. It's a cat, and then it's the Meowatola, and like the fucking bald eagle like shoots the Meowatola in the heart, and then like in subsequent episodes, the Persian cats they like get together and like they blockade the Strait of Hormuz, and then the American eagle is like, surely like all of the commerce league will like rally to my cause, and then like it's been 3 weeks, where are they? And then and like nobody is like joining. So it's actually like a one-to-one like timeline of events. And that's the thing, is that the rest of the world is like not as illiterate as Americans. So like when the rest of the world sees like an accurate, albeit with anthropomorphized animals, okay, like, like animals, like there's camels, and like the Persians are all cats, the Americans are like eagles or whatever. like they just tell the truth. They're like sort of like this is what's happening, and like people get it. And like the American propaganda is just like so deranged. Like
Yeah.
you have to be like literally like internet brained to like fucking decipher what it is.
Yeah, it's
Like
like the American version of the propaganda is very like neo-Nazi Hitler Youth, like in the AI era vibe. Like it's purely just, it's like what, like it's purely like the type of cartoons from like the Nazi era. Because this is for children. And like it's really interesting. I need to go back and find out like who did it first. Did the US do it or did Iran do it with these? With it might be that like the Lego way is like the Lego is like its own a medium, like that there is like this like AI that can do like the Lego setup. So it's just being used that way. But like it'd be interesting to hear like see who did it first. And then the other thing you were talking about with the like the propaganda videos, the video game type videos,
yes,
those videos are for Trump. That's what those videos are for. Like they're for
yeah.
Trump to make them think that things are still going, like we're decimating them, we're destroying them. They got nobody left.
But wait, though, I think that it has a sort of appeal. And I'm thinking about this very recently because things that ought not to be popular are like really popular. Like there is
We're
very,
stupid people who are
there,
lots of stupid people.
but there is like very sort of like dark corners of the internet, okay, that have become like mainstream culture, right? And I was thinking about this recently because I'm like, why the fuck do I know who Clavicular is?
I knew that's where it was going.
Like, what the fuck is going on here? We're almost like, what are we, 10 years since Isla Vista? And like, that was like the sort of like one event that brought this very fucked up, like very niche, like internet subculture into the mainstream consciousness, right? Like it was prior confined solely to like very internet psychosis like people, right? Like you would have to have played World of Warcraft there like 16 hours a day to like even have had this like PUA culture like even be on your radar, right?
Yep.
And like now it's like fucking this dude Clavicular is on fucking Piers Morgan. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, holy shit. This is the kind of like Gamergate, like so toxic masculinity, whatever, manosphere shit that that kind of jingoism, like video gamifying war crimes, like fucking war crimes, is sort of like meant to appeal to. Like there's some kind of like understanding within the current American regime that like that is like popular or like acceptable or mainstream, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
I have I have a whole like I think we've talked about this before. You know, we talked about came from something awful and like that they, you know, exactly what you're talking about, where like these dark corners of the internet have now become mainstream. I
yes,
do kind of believe though that there's an aspect of that that is not just happening naturally. And in fact, I think that this is a core part of Nazism is that like the saying is something like first is absurd and then as like common, and that is their motive, right? It's about there's this concept called the externalization of the hierarchy. That is this book that is written by this fucking woman who claimed to be like channeling a ascended master. And this book is like a core part of like Nazi Telios going into like post WW2, like into like a new type of esoteric Nazism that is probably more connected to like NATO than like the old, you know, the old guard. And it's this idea of like what was once hidden will now become known to the world. And like, I believe that like Bush, like the Bush one era, sorry, it's like Bush two, Bush Jr., George W. Bush, a whole part of that aspect of him like being this like just idiot that was like, that was doing fucking war crimes, you know what I mean? An aspect of that is that they were intentionally distilling this disillusionment in the public to create all of this like disillusionment in institutions so that we would then get Trump, right? And so like this is how you take things that are just absurd and you just keep bringing them into the mainstream to just dissolve the trust in institutions to make it so that they, one, there is no accountability for their crimes, and two, you're like indoctrinating the masses into like the way that you think rather than so that they are the also the elite. And like an aspect of this, like Adorno kind of talked about, you said about the gamification, where it's this, you're creating this good and evil narrative, right? And it everything, all of this nuance gets leveled off, where it just becomes this battle. And like you said, symbols, right? Symbols of power, symbols of fame, right? But it has nothing to do with the actual presidency, you know. But it's replaced those things, like then these narrative devices have like
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I have two like neat thoughts about this. Like, and
go next.
one is that I've unwillingly participated in that
Oh, of
because
course. So have I, a million percent.
you know, like that, like language, these completely baffling symbols, Chad
Yeah.
and mugging and this whole like complete. I think I started using it ironically, like as a joke, and like, but then it eventually infiltrated its way into my regular language, right? And it's happened for so many other people too, where like Chad and beta and like all of these terms. I can't believe there's people that know what looks maxing is or anything maxing. Like, what the fuck is going on? Or like that shit should never have broken containment. Like, what the fuck is going on? And wow. So I've unwittingly sort of participated in the normalizing of this like fucking weird shit.
But I think we all have, and that's the thing, is you can't escape it. Like
Yeah.
it's the language that, like, you know, and as someone like as a Marxist, right? There's an element like you have to kind of walk a certain line where it's like, is this the language of the enemy or is this just the language? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that there's an element where there is most of it that is like the language of the enemy, right? But there is still an aspect where it can be like turned against itself in like a weird way. But and it also it parallels so much with like I've been reading a lot, listening to a lot of stuff about like World War II, Germany, and just like Nazi ideology, like the Nazi politic, and it's so familiar of just these like silly, absurd things that become like Ubermenschen, like these things that become like it's just like a silly phrase that fucking that you know the Führer would say, and then it becomes more and more as like its culture, and like it would come top down, you know, with the Nazis, but because of the atomization of Western society, it comes from like the bottom up, and then the top grabs it. So like, you know, you'll see JD Vance probably saying fucking looks maxing if he
Yeah.
hasn't already. You know what I mean?
So this is just the same way that like capitalism identifies things and then identifies them as being profitable. And
Yeah.
that's how like, you know, these counterculture things end up becoming commodities and your identity is sold back to you. That's why people buy Che Guevara shirts on Amazon, right?
Right. And like the a radical
The
sorry.
part that is like the most like counter revolutionary thing you could possibly do is like buy the Che Guevara t-shirt built made by a sweatshop worker in Cambodia off of Amazon and like put money in Jeff Bezos' pocket. That's like the most counter revolutionary thing you could possibly do. And but this sort of goes towards the like everything's a fucking simulation, bro. Like we are living in the fucking matrix, like fucking shit. Where like symbols, they don't fucking mean anything anymore, or like they don't represent any reality.
Yep.
They're so completely divorced from any actual kind of material reality. It kind of makes me think of these like Polymarket and these like fucking stock market things. Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like things aren't by the definition, like their actual definition. They're by what we think, like what we see the definitions are. Like we don't see things as they are. Even like anti-Semitism is a great example, right? We don't see anti-Semitism as it is. We see it as we are.
Yes, the symbol doesn't represent the reality.
Yeah, and it can be inverted. Though I will say from talking to, from talking to many francophone people and people who speak other languages, that is very much like unique to the Anglosphere. The Anglosphere is the only type of language that allows that insane double meaning fucking game to happen where like the meaning of words are taken away and like the out of context meaning is then applied to it. That only works in like English. And it's like, it's because English is like the newest language. Like it's the most manipulative language. So there is no room for nuance. It's just like, no, this means this, which means that, which means this, you go to jail.
I have come up with this like interpretation of like how things work, and like it includes things like sexual market value, and it must be because you're like facial bones or what have you are like not in the correct ratio. So there's all of these like symbols, and they're pointing to like, okay, your facial ratios are incorrect. That means your sexual market value is like lower, which means that because of hypergamy or whatever, you're gonna do poorly in the dating market. And so this is completely the simulation, right? Like you're living in the matrix. Nothing that is going on like here. I, I think it's all completely subjective. Like you're trapped in your own head at this point. This is your personal interpretation of how human interactions go, and like
Yeah, we created like micro identities to
yeah,
about every single little thing about not like every single even aesthetic aspect of this means that person is a fascist. This means that person is a socialist. This means that person, you know what I mean?
yeah, that's so interesting. It's like they're that particular culture is completely obsessed with their like with body image, but it is also completely obsessed with status and power, like your position within the hierarchy, right?
Yes.
So
Okay. So this is what I was going to talk. This is what I was going to say is that it's like cultural fascism. You know, like how fucking Jordan Peterson always talked about cultural Marxism. You
yes,
know,
yes. This is it. This is it. It's the woke Nazis, man. Yeah,
it's the opposite, right? It's cultural Nazism, right? Because like they can't actually control the state. They can, but not in the way that they want. So they've
yeah,
created this alternative in the same way, that the left has these fucking moralist things, right? Like where you can't
right, right.
say the R word, or like certain, right? Like certain things are like you
I did that earlier, and then walking it back.
it's fine. It's fine. But like, you know what I mean? There's like these things where it's like, oh, that person's a fascist, right? But then
Yeah,
the right wingers are like, oh, that person's beta, but
yeah.
it's like they've created the same type of, and like,
It's identical. It's identical.
yeah, and like the left did it because they have no power. And so they have to create this thing to make them feel
Wait
like
a
they're
second.
power.
Wait a second. The libs did it. The
Well, I
liberals.
mean, when I say the left, I mean the fucking like the left and
Look,
left. That's essentially what I'm talking about. The like annoying leftists who just want to,
yeah,
wreckers and things like that. Who just the
yeah.
type
Well,
of
the
yeah,
Raiders, they're like,
yeah. So yeah, and so like the right, that's their version of it, right? Is this like this new type of like social engineering it is a way to enforce this hierarchy. And because of technology and because of like advanced, like, you know, with streamers and cultural figures, it's very like, it looks like culture, but it's purely like, it's almost like a virtual reality, like to make it look like, no, this is how culture actually is. You know what I mean? But like, it's purely, it's like presenting as this universalist phenomenon when it's only like a fraction of reality. But because it's so loud and so demanding, it works.
But it doesn't. I think maybe it's not. And I hate to keep giving air to this, but I do think clavicular is kind of like a tragic figure. So he's this person that's gone through this like journey of like self improvement. But if you look at the interviews with him and whatnot, it it hasn't resulted in him like being happy.
No.
It hasn't resulted in him being like healthy and like secure and confident or anything like that. And like if you look at these like this is fucked up. Why are we talking about this fucking guy? But like you look at these like interviews where he goes on 60 minutes, I think in Australia or something. And like he meets like I think normal is a tyranny, by the way. But
No, I agree.
he meets a normal person and like they just look at him with like a measure of like pity and derision. Like the fucking interviewer there is fucking laughing at him the whole time, and like the poor fucking bastard is just like like it's just incapable of like interacting with other people. It's so in that way, it's like fucking tragic. But like when these, I guess it might be like RFK, like going through a hearing in like Congress or something, and like people are like, dude, you like spent government dollars to drink raw milk half naked with it in a hot tub or something like that. Like there's some sort of like level where their subjective reality comes into collision with other people. And I think it's because their whole like imaginary subjective reality is constructed of these false symbols that are only like good for people that are terminally online or like very internet brain. So when they encounter someone who is like not internet brained and they start to use these symbols like looks maxing, mogging, old cell, all this other shit, people are like, look at them as if they have two heads. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But there's also this like subset of like media that gives them air. And those are like people like fucking Joe Rogan that are like nod their heads when people like fucking this guy come up with these stupid fucking ideas and symbols and they're like, oh gee, that makes a lot of sense. Like, no, it fucking doesn't. No, it doesn't. That is fucking stupid. And I'm like, so it does happen where there this sort of I think this weird American culture connects with the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is, what the fuck are you doing, bro? What are you doing? What the fuck are you talking about?
I think
That
also because there's an aspect of this where like a lot of the rest of the world has already gone through this, not necessarily in these times, but like, you know, during World War II, during in the 30s and 40s. And like I think that this is a great, I think that there's very much a okay, first of all, there's a beautiful example of what you're talking about. There's an interview with Clav and Danny Bessner, who's a historian from the podcast American Prestige. And he just like sits down with them for like 12 minutes and does an interview with them. And Danny's like, so like, what's your plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And he's just like, what do you mean, dude? That's kind of a weird question, bro. And he's just like, oh, like I'm just wondering, like, where do you like, what do you do? Like, where do you see yourself financially? Like, do you see yourself like continuing to do this? He's like, yeah, of course. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm always going to do this. And like he's just like the guy. Eventually, he's like, "Are you like are you like a Fed? Are you like a part of like with the IRS?" And he's like, "No, man, I'm just a professor. I'm doing an interview with you for like a column I'm writing."
Uh,
It's just like, and he can't even he doesn't even know, he's just an empty vessel. And this is it reminds me, so all of this stuff, all of these hilarious empty aesthetic things remind me so much of, again, I've been reading a lot about World War II era like culture. It reminds me so much of like the quote unquote like social fascism of like Mussolini, right? Where it's all about like this patriarchal, the aesthetics, and like the people. Like, this is the thing, the reason that that happens is because like there's an aspect of this like social fascism where they're like, we're cooler than like this old guard power force. We're cooler, right? We're more appealing. But like, because they're so socially aware, they'll always turn against it because it's ultimately very uncool and fucking stupid. You'll even see like what's his name? Like the fucking the right-wing kid, Nick.
oh
Yeah,
God.
Nick Fuentes, like if you watch his streams now, he's just like, are you people idiots? Are you people stupid? Listen, you guys, are you guys fucking like he hates his audience. It's because like they embodied a character because it was like the moment, the culture of the moment. But like that only goes so far because like the power that it's like you have the power, but the power isn't locked in like the agency of like the American state. So like you're stuck at this idle point where if you're not actually doing the things that they want to do, right? Like building the camps and mass fucking deportations and stuff, they just go inverse. They start in like because they care
Yeah.
more about like being cool and being like acceptable than they do about like actually doing fascism. And I think that's like a sick irony that makes it so like American fascism is self-defeating. It will never rise. Because like it's so atomized that there isn't any like culture that could like unify it.
So I watched the actual like IRGC, like whatever, like propaganda video, and they show the indigenous person, the Korean, the Vietnamese person, the Iraqi person, and then they show, of course, the one thing you must never harm, which is the little blonde white girl, right? And like underneath each of these scenes is the name place, right? North America, Vietnam, Epstein Island, right? And then I watched, the American coverage of this video where they showed like clips of this video, but it was cropped in such a way and blurred so that you couldn't see the name places, right? So when they showed Epstein Island and the little blonde girl, like the like little Epstein Island thing was like blurred out. I was like, why the fuck did you do that? Why wouldn't you just show the fucking thing? Like it is what it is, right? Like, but he was somehow, meant to censor that from the American public, right? Like it was so like truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That like it's like, oh God, people can't possibly see this. This kind of goes back to like
It's funny
the
because they're like, get a load of this ridiculous propaganda. And they're like censoring shit. It's like, what? We should wrap this up, but I want to wrap it up by just essentially asking you, we'll go back to what we were talking about earlier. Where do you think, we were talking about the Amazon thing. Some stuff was true, some stuff was what wasn't, but there was also other things that were related to it where I believe that there was somebody also like burnt down or attempted to burn down a department store in a similar way, like a retail store.
yeah, okay. So the great story, and like I wanted to believe it, is that this Amazon worker dies, and so there a week ago, I think there was an incident in a Georgia Amazon warehouse where worker dies, and people are like, "Yo, like we should fucking help this guy," and they're like told basically, "Never fucking mind, just go back to work. We got this." And the managers are like incapable, panicked, performing CPR for an extended period of time, which is not like some like, CPR is not something you just do casually, right? Like it's a physical effort required for that. And people are like, yo, like, can we help? And they're like, no, go back to work.
It happened in Oregon, and
Oregon? Okay.
it's for sure true.
Yeah. Okay. But then this other story is that the same thing happens like in Compton, which I don't know why specifically Compton, but like somewhere California or whatever. And the same thing happens, and the workers like immediately set the place on fire, like the Kimberly Clark fire, right? Which would be like just so, oh my God, that's so badass. Like I would fucking love if my workplace, like if my coworkers were actually that fucking ride or die with me, that would be the place I would want to work forever. But
yeah, so
I don't.
this did have like there's a commercial building in Compton was burned. There was arson. And so like it would make sense for them to not say what this is, to not connect the dots. Like the
I
media.
thought the same thing, but like the report says something. It was adjacent to something else that was dangerous, but it's really short on detail.
Yeah, and I think that there's like a mix just because of like how, like we talked about before, like they use this type of sabotage as a cover to do like things that would actually hurt people.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it made me think of the warehouse fire, the guy, the raw video there, like where like it's like you could have just paid us enough to live, but this is what you fucking get. How about this? Your whole stock going up. Yeah. Yeah. Ontario. Ontario. You're in Ontario. Yeah.
Should have paid us enough to live. You know, we may not get paid enough to live, but these dirt cheap. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live.
I'm probably going on watch.
Pay us enough to live. Here goes your inventory.
I want to see. It looks like I want to pause it at the.
Should have paid us enough to live. You know, we may not get paid enough to live.
These motherfuckers are cheap. Yo, I want one of those.
Is that a Zippo?
Well, it surely appears that way. Yeah. What's he got?
What is that logo? What is that logo? It looks like it literally looks like Bayern Munich to me. Do you know Bayern Munich?
You're a soccer team. I take it.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that is a Bayern Munich. Look at the. I'll show you. Look at the.
I want to see. Is he smoking a blunt? He's smoking a dart. Like if you look at his head.
I know, dude. I think it is, man.
You think?
I gotta. Yeah, look at that logo, and then look at this logo. I think it is, dude.
Yo, it might be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Honestly, to me, like I'm like, this is an elder god, and it's like a circular mouth with spiky teeth. That's what it looks like.
I mean, it might be like a Zippo company, but because sometimes like shit looks the same. But like, dude, I'm pretty sure that that's.
Is he smoking a blunt? Wait, go back. He's smoking a blunt.
Oh yeah, he is.
He's smoking. The hell is he? I know that. Yeah, dude. This guy's a smoker.
And so I want to ask you, where do you think this goes? And also, like we didn't see the part, but it says in the article that a disgruntled employee accused of causing $500 million in damage invoked Luigi Mangione as he filmed himself torching a warehouse as he rallied against wages. It doesn't show that in the video we just saw, but I think like this is actually, I'm not condoning any of this PSA, But like this is actually a more resourceful means of like this is more productive than what Luigi did, you know, like and not bashing Luigi, but it's like the insurgency of capitalism is always going to replace like the previous person. So like you can't necessarily go after the heads of snakes because it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. But that doesn't work. That doesn't work when you're talking about actual resources.
I read an article that was like the guillotine. So like fuck, like that worked fantastic back in like 1600 or fucking whatever, because like yeah, there actually was one dude, and you had to chop his fucking head off. That made sense at that time, but material conditions have changed
Yeah.
slightly. And like, no, like there isn't particular like let's look at the fucking Epstein files. Like there isn't particularly one fucking pedophile capitalist piece of shit that we're talking about killing a lot of people at that point. Like, what the fuck are we doing? But like I yeah, as okay, as praxis, if I were to evaluate the effectiveness of this action from a purely hypothetical point of view, I would say it is way more effective. It is way more effective. And also I can like much better empathize, or a person who might possibly be on American government watch lists might empathize with this person more easily than a murderer, right? Like,
Exactly, right? And like
was that
it's still like that. Yeah, exactly. And like the thing is like the less idiosyncratic that you are with these types of acts of violence, the better like you appeal to the public. So like you said, an act of murder, regardless of how righteous it might be, it's still like an idiosyncratic.
yes, nobody can come back and be like, but that toilet paper had children.
Exactly.
As if like having a wife and children somehow makes you virtuous, which is
Or you didn't even give him a chance. You shot him in the back. Like that type of shit. It's like and like again, I'm not gonna bash Luigi because obviously people like the conditions drove him to do what he did.
But did you notice my jacket? Well, it might look somewhat familiar. Maybe, possibly. You know, but moving on, like yeah, that no, not moving on, but the fucking toilet paper. Like, tell me though, where's the fucking sprinkler system in this fucking warehouse?
They probably didn't have one.
Where the fuck is it? What the you're the paper fucking paper place stacked on pallets fucking warehouse. Like what the what where's the sprinkler system? Like what the fuck is going on here? Like disabled? Like
You
this is
might have just known that there wasn't one.
yeah. It's like you guys won't pay me my fucking wages. You probably didn't pay for a sprinkler system for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's still when I said like what he did, I mean that's I guess allegedly. And then there's still a whole other thread that like can go on about like he's such an odd figure who has such a weird background and has somehow connections to like the Maduro trial, where like one of his close friends is a witness in the Maduro trial, which complete and they're both being held in the same fucking like facility, corrections facility in fucking like South Brooklyn.
Oh, interesting.
Maduro and Luigi.
Oh, I gotta pitch my idea. What is this place? It's like the one particular prison in New York.
Pretty sure it's where Epstein or not. I know it might not be where.
Yeah,
Epstein was.
no. But this is the thing. So it's a sitcom, and okay, and like Maduro, P Diddy, and Luigi Mangione are all in the same prison together, with the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, and like it's a buddy like comedy like sitcom like so like P Diddy and like and Maduro and Luigi are all chilling, and like every once in a while the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein will like open the door and they'll be like, hey. You know what I mean?
No, I mean it's incredible. This is incredible.
Who else has been like a famous prisoner in this? Because I think all
Dude,
four
I'm
of
looking at it right now. I'm looking at it. It's insane. Like,
them.
it's insane. So the 6ix9ine guy, apparently, did you see he came out and he talked about how like he was chill with Maduro and like him and Maduro like got along?
What?
Then-
What? Wait, Takeshi 6ix9ine?
Yes.
What the rapper guy with all the like,
Yes. He was and then like people like he had to say to like his fans like, yo, Maduro's sick, dude. Like
he's back. Oh, like not gonna lie. Oh my god, this is great. Like, what is this prison? Like, why does everyone end up there? Like, this is awesome. This should totally be a fucking television show. Like, I don't know. Like, wow, what if it was like Big Brother or some shit? Then you got like,
I mean, it essentially is.
no way.
Here we go.
What the
Release
fuck?
jail carrying toy signed by Maduro. Incredible. Yeah, there's been so many like R. Kelly was there. Who else? Fetty Wap, fucking Martin Shkreli. Who else?
Oh, Martin Shkreli, I recognize that name. He was some like fucking internet.
He's the pharmaceutical executive who got caught doing like
yeah. I'm gonna raise the price of insulin 5,000 or some shit.
and he was like the guy who owned like the one Wu-Tang, the one like Wu-Tang secret record.
Oh my god, like epic, like fucking
Ghislaine Maxwell, P. Diddy, Luigi Mangione, and Maduro.
oh my god, like the cast would be amazing. Like,
No,
dude,
I guarantee you that like we're putting this in the vault. This will be a thing. Somebody is going to create this. I guarantee you. Like, I guarantee this is too easy. Like, this is low hanging fruit, man. This is insane.
oh, so good.
Okay, it must be because there's so much like finance capital in that area that like any type of like big like it's also because like terrorism and stuff, if they're gonna charge anybody, it's gonna be there. So there's like a huge overlap.
Just right with terrorism, just because of the optics, like Twin Towers, like optics, like New York. Like,
Yeah, and also because of the harbor, probably too.
okay. Okay. I'm gonna get the Chinese AI DeepSeek to like write me a script. Or like, what's just the name of the jail or prison or whatever?
It is the Metropolitan Detention Center of Brooklyn. MDC Brooklyn. That's what it's called.
MDC Brooklyn.
That's the show. Like that's the show.
MDC Brooklyn is right. Like Reno 911.
Yeah.
I don't know.
MDC Brooklyn. That's it.
Brooklyn. And like the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein fucking keeps showing up. They're like R. Kelly and P. Diddy are like, yo, what's up? Shit, man. Oh, that's fucked up.
We'll keep pulling on this thread. We should just keep like talking. Well, just because there's endless amounts of people. We could literally do an entire podcast, like an entire series on everybody who's like there is literally podcasts about each one of these people. You know what I mean? Like, there's documentaries about each one of these people. Insane.
Oh man.
Okay, I think we've got enough here.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks for your time, man. Yeah, good.